Okay, welcome to the first core skills lecture. This time it's going to be about pronunciation. Every week at the same time we'll be meeting to cover different issues related to to pronunciation. As you will see, irrespective of the test that you're taking, the way that you convey your ideas using your speech is absolutely fundamental to getting a good score. If you speak English, let's say, well, you're a competent speaker of English, but you're not being clear in the way that you're speaking, your mark will be depressed as a result of that. Too often we get people who are really very competent speakers of English coming to us in despair and saying, I don't know what's going wrong, I don't know why I'm scoring badly. And there's any number of reasons, but one of them is not being clear in the speech that you're using in the test. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, now as usual, we have the Q&A session at the end. So anytime you have an idea or a thought or something that you'd like to discuss, please send it through to the Q&A box in the Zoom window that you're looking at. Okay, so pronunciation will be the overriding theme over these coming weeks, and today we're starting with the sounds of English. Okay, let's start with a pop quiz. So here's the question: how would you pronounce this word based on its spelling? All right, ready? G-H-O-T-I. How would you pronounce that word? Give you a few seconds to think about it. G-H-O-T-I. By the way, H, not H. All right, let's have a look. Okay, let me give you a clue if you're not sure. If you got it, well done. If you haven't got it, here's a clue. There's your clue. I don't know if that's going to help you or make you feel more depressed. That's your clue. Any ideas? G-H-O-T-I means fish. F-I-S-H, fish. So you might be wondering, what on earth is Colin talking about? Let's break it down. G-H as in tough, rough, and enough. Now, all of these words, some of these words will be familiar to you. E-N-O-U-G-H bizarrely spells enough. So the G-H in enough makes a f sound, enough. G-H, so that's the f from G-H-O-T-I. O as in women. So not O as in women, but I as in women. W-O-M-E-N. Should by rights be women, but in fact is women. So we have the f, we have the I, and we have the sh, ti, as in motion, lotion, and emotion. Okay, so the sh sound, which you probably have spelt before without thinking too deeply about it, ti becomes a sh. So G-H-O-T-I spells fish. Don't like doing air quotes, but there you go. Air quotes, you've got some air quotes from me. So let's put it another way. The f sound, as in tough, rough, and enough. Okay? Now, I put it to you that the f is a sound rather than a letter. I'm not saying F as in tough. There's no F in tough. There's no F in rough or enough, but the sound is f. So the f sound. The I as in women, so I put that in quotes, the I sound, because it's not the I sound. The word is not fish, okay? It is fish. The word is kill, not kyle. Kill, I. The I sound as in women, and sh, that funny old symbol there, as in motion, lotion, emotion, the sh sound. So the sound usually made by S-H. All right, so there we have I and sh. Three sounds to make up the sounds in a four-letter word, F-I-S-H, fish. So the first lesson I need you to take away is the connection between spelling and pronunciation. Don't always assume it's there. I read some time ago that there is a disproportionate number of dyslexic children in English-speaking countries because we do have a disconnect between the way that we spell and the way that we write. If we were to refer to Latin languages like French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, then you can see once you've learned the pronunciation, you generally understand the spelling. It's not the case in English. Do not assume that there is a connection between what you spell and the way that you say the word. All right? So, you saw a couple of them already. What are these strange symbols that I used? Well, welcome to the English phonemic chart. This is the phonemic chart. Notice, divided into two basic colors. The colors at the top, which are grayish, and the colors at the bottom, which are kind of yellowish. All right, there's a whole bunch of squiggly lines there. Anyone who's ever opened a dictionary will know what I'm talking about. You'll always see these symbols. These are the phonemes, the sounds of the English language. And it's this that we're going to be concentrating on today. So, on the whole, when we look at a word that we've never seen before, we assume that each letter makes something like a logical sound. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it does work nicely. So let's have a look at some examples of where the letters that you see lead you to pronounce in a particular way that actually does make sense. So C-A-T, everyone knows that C is a curly K, so K-A-T, cat. Great, works beautifully. H-it, hit, H-I-T, hit, makes sense as well. Notice in the red you've got the phonemes and in the black you've got the letters. Ship, okay, it's four letters, but SH is one sound. Sh-ip, ship, makes sense. Everyone knows that SH produces the sh sound. Man, m-a-n, man, great. Three letters, three sounds, one word, beautiful. Pin, p-in, pin, red, r-e-d, red. Cat, hit, ship, man, pin, red. All words which actually follow, if you like, a logical spelling leading to a logical pronunciation. But often it doesn't work that way. Now, let's look at the O-U-G-H cluster. My Lord, what a cluster. O-U-G-H. Now, some of these words you might be familiar with, and others you will not. So, for example, B-O-U-G-H spells bow. That means it rhymes with now, plow, how, now, brown, cow. Bow. T-O-U-G-H spells tough. T-uff, tough, tough, enough. Sounds like stuff. Though. So the O, like go, snow, show, O, though, T-H-O-U-G-H. So already we got three different sounds for O-U-G-H, but it gets better. Check it out. T-R-O-U-G-H. Anyone? Trough, trough. So we use this in weather, and we also use it on farms. An animal feeds from a trough. Trough sounds like cough. Okay? So cough is another strange one, but there you go, trough. I tried to keep it with the T's if I could. T-R-O-U-G-H, trough sounds like cough. C-O-U-G-H. Through sounds like to, new, blue. Okay? Ough is the sound of O-U-G-H. Anyone? Thorough, thorough. So there, by the way, I don't know if that's going to be interesting for you, but it is a fairly interesting linguistic fact. The sound of O-U-G-H in thorough is what we call a schwa. Now, we're not going to focus on schwa this week, but that little upside down E that you can see at the end of the phoneme spelling thorough is a schwa. It's the most common sound in English. The most common sound in English. So, what does that mean? It means it's everywhere. Another, along, mother. So the sound at the beginning of along and the sound at the end of mother is a schwa. All right? Thorough is another example of the schwa. So what have we got so far? 6 examples of OUGH. Don't look for consistency in English. On behalf of all English speakers and teachers, I apologize. There we go. I think that's the last one. Thought. Thought. Think, thought, thought. The conjugation, OUGH, or, like door, floor, more, store. Okay? Now, at this point, I hope maybe you recognize that I have a British accent. All right? So I'm not going to make any excuses for that. People have all sorts of different accents. We will be talking about accents later on in this series of lectures, but for the sake of consistency, my accent is British. That doesn't mean that I insist that everyone imitate my accent, but for the sake of teaching you, I will remain consistent to the way that I speak English in the way that I transcribe into phonetic symbols. So there you have bow, tough, though, trough, through, thorough, and thought. Anyone who thinks there's anything between the way that we write and the way that we spell and the way that we pronounce needs to have a little think about their English. All right? So, I've shown you all these symbols. You might be asking yourselves, do you really expect me to learn a whole new alphabet? And you might feel a bit like this poor young lady. Oh no, I need to learn a whole new alphabet. It's a nightmare. I've already got enough on my plate as it is. Well, not exactly, okay? Keep calm, remain calm. Let's learn the sounds of the English language. You will notice, and this will become clear over the coming session and over the coming weeks, that a lot of the symbols, a lot of the sounds already exist in the language that you already speak, whether you speak your native tongue only or whether you have a couple of languages already. A lot of these sounds will be familiar to you. It's only a number of issues that are going to present an issue for you. So remain calm, don't worry. I don't expect you to be going around writing everything in phonemes for the rest of your preparation time, but it doesn't hurt you to learn what these symbols mean, all right? And this will become clear today and in future sessions, all right? Phonemes are the sounds of any language. So every language, when you break it down, comes to sounds, all right? It comes down to the sounds that that language incorporates. Now, here's an important note. Not every language possesses every sound. And every language has its own unique sounds. Now, frequently, my colleague here, who is from southern China, tries to explain the difference between 4 words that basically sound exactly the same to me, but they are phonetically completely different. Same is true in the past when I've taught different students from different countries, when they try to explain sounds of words that they actually, of course, the difference in Portuguese between vovó and vovô is completely different. So grandmother and grandfather, the only difference is the sound of the letter O on the end of the word, O and O. So one is more open, one is more closed. But notice, in Portuguese, they've got that distinction. In Chinese, they have these distinctions. The sounds are different. So it's these sounds of English that you need to become accustomed to distinguishing between. Very, very good example is the difference between the sound I, as in hit, and the E, as in heat. So I hit the ball, and I was thinking a good example. Yes, my room was heated during the winter. Heat, hit, heat. Another one between and a. So I had a headache. Different people in different countries find it difficult to make a distinction between the a sound and the sound, the e sound and the I sound. Another pop quiz for you. How many vowel sounds are there in the English language? Okay, it's a multiple choice. Is it 5? Is it 7? Or is it 12? 3 choices. Have a guess, anyone? Okay. The answer, drum roll please. The answer is 12. Okay? Now, for all of those who said it's 5, there are 5 vowels. But today's session is about distinguishing between sounds and letters. I'm not here to teach you the alphabet. My assumption is that all of you know how the alphabet song goes. If you learned the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's the alphabet. I'm not concerned about the alphabet. My concern today is about pronunciation. This pronunciation of the sound of the vowels, there are 12. Let's have a look at them. There are 12 vowel sounds and they are pure sounds. I'll explain what that means. So we've got E, E as in sheep, I as in ship, U as in good, U as in shoot, E as in bed, the schwa, as in teacher, bird, bird, or door, a cat, up, far, and o for on. They are the 12 pure sounds. Why are they pure? They're pure because you make the sound and your mouth doesn't change. It doesn't move. Okay, E. I'm not doing more than one thing with my mouth. I fix it in one place and I make that sound. All right. It's important to remember this because we're going to come to something in a minute, which is not pure sound. Doesn't mean it's impure. It just means it's a more complex sound. So how do we distinguish these different ones? Now you'll notice some of these have got the little double dots. This is important, and others do not. Short vowels don't have the double dots. I, U, E, A, and O. These are short sounds, all right? And you can tell because they're a short explosion of noise. You can't do an E long sound, but E you can, okay? E, all right, is a short sound. Is a long sound, all right? So you've got the short vowels, and then you've got the long vowels, E, U, or R, all right? They're all vowels, but some are short and some are long, and they are all pure sounds, all right? So what does this mean? It means that you've already got 12 important phonemes under your belt, okay? The vowel sounds, long vowels and the short vowels. Now, I mentioned about the purity of the vowel sounds. Diphthongs are not pure, okay? These are diphthongs. Now, anyone who speaks, well, a bit of English, but of course any Latin language, will recognize that the DI, I don't know if that's Latin or Greek, forgive me, but two meaning two sounds. Hear, ear, wait, a, tourist, ur, boy, oi, show, o. So look, my mouth has to move to make the diphthong sound. Hair, air, my, I, and ow, cow, ow. So to make diphthongs, I need to do two things with my mouth. I'm effectively taking two vowel sounds to form one syllable, okay? Now, this is another distinctive thing about English. It may not be unique to English, but it is an important thing to emphasize, that diphthongs may be a single letter, and they may be multiple letters. Let's look at some examples of that. What do I mean by single letters? Well, S-K-Y, the letter Y, is a diphthong. Sky, I. The letter O in go is a diphthong. O. A, way. Now we're into multiple letters. A-Y to sound way, as in a, way. All right? Pride, one letter, but the middle I in pride is a diphthong. Pride. Then we have oi, as in boy. Ear, steer, as in steer the car. Steer, ear. Cow, C-O-W, sound is a diphthong, ow. Now please notice that the letter Y, although it is a consonant, to all intents and purposes in pronunciation, phonetically, it is a vowel. Okay? So it is, of course, a consonant, but it is a vowel sound. Okay? That's why we can write rhythm, the word rhythm, with no vowels, because we effectively have a phonetic vowel in there, rhythm, R-H-Y-T-M, rhythm. And finally, moving into the last segment, we have the consonants, okay? Now, consonants, I hope you're familiar with the consonants. There they go, okay? Now, when you look at a phonetic, table of phonemes or table of phonetics, you can see that they are symbols, they're not letters. So don't look at this table and go, it's P, B, T, D, F, V, because all of a sudden, after the V, what's that? Squiggle, squiggle, M, N, squiggle, H, squiggle, squiggle, K, G, S, Z, squiggle, squiggle. Doesn't work that way. It's the sound that is interesting for you, not the letter. Don't confuse them. Remember, alphabet's over here, the phonetics, symbols, the phonemes are over on the other side. So there, for example, we have P as in pin and B as in bad. We have T as in tin and we D as in dog. Okay, so these are the consonant sounds. All right, now as we get through our series of lectures over the next few weeks, you will notice that there are certainly some of these which do stand out for people from different language groups. We're not going to worry about that too much right now, but suffice to say, these are the consonant sounds. All right, so we've got the vowels, long and short, we have the diphthongs, and then we've got the consonants. All right, now what's interesting about these consonants? They are either voiced or unvoiced, okay? If you're not sure which consonant is voiced and which is unvoiced, make the sound and hold your hand to your throat, like this young man from the 1960s. Hold your hand to your throat and you make the noise. Now, when you talk normally, as I'm talking now, there's constant vibration going on, and not just because I have a lovely deep voice, but because that's what happens. Your voice box, your larynx, everything is vibrating. It's moving all around in there. And you think, well, of course, because you're talking. Well, not necessarily. Hold your throat and make the sound of the consonants, and you'll notice that when it's vibrating, it's voiced. And when it's not vibrating, it's unvoiced. Now, let's have a look at some examples. Now, remember this little boy in black and white? He's holding his throat. Try and do that when you look at these sounds. All of the circled sounds that we've got here are unvoiced, all of them. Ready? Hold your hand to your throat and say the sound. Okay? Not one vibration from your throat. Now, look at this. They've all got a connected voiced version. What does that mean? It means that you're doing the very same thing with your mouth and your tongue and your lips when you make the P sound as when you do the B sound. But the difference between pin and bin is that you are voicing the B in bin and you are not voicing the P in pin. All right? So P, it relates to B. T relates to D. F relates to V. F relates to the. Ch relates to J. K relates to G. S and Z and Sh and J. The only difference between these sounds is the voicing or unvoicing. Your mouth, your teeth, your tongue, your lips are doing the same thing for a S as a Z, except for the vibrations in your voice box, okay? That is the difference between a voiced and an unvoiced consonant, all right? So, now, you'll see that not all of them, so you still got M, N, Ng. These are not related to these relationships between two letters, but you still have a good number of standalones. M is voiced, N is voiced, Ng is voiced, H is not, L, R, W, and Y, they are all voiced, okay? So the only unvoiced remainder, the only unvoiced leftover is the H sound, as in half, okay? Happy, half, Hungary, all right? So, it's interesting to look at those relationships. And I remember when I started teaching English, and this was pointed out to me, it was like, my third eye had been opened. I'd never made the connection that I was making the same action with my mouth to make a p as I was with a b, with the only difference being the voiced or unvoiced element of that particular sound. All right, so know that. You have a big head start. It's going to help you a great deal. All right, voiced and unvoiced consonants, that is something for you to remember. So different language groups have got different problems with different consonants. Okay, now forgive me, I know that we got people from all over the world in this particular session, so forgive me if I'm not including, broadly speaking, not including your language groups, but it's only really to highlight the issue. Depending on your language group, you have got different problems with different sounds. So if you come from East Asia, and I've been very broad about this, so China, Mongolia, the Koreas, Japan, and so on, what have you got? A problem with the L sound and the R sound, okay? L and R create an interesting problem for people from East Asia. What's the confusion? Well, it makes it hard to distinguish between lice and rice. Now, of course, if you're ordering in a restaurant, one would assume that you are not ordering that, which is a lice, but rather that, which is a bowl of rice. R and L is a problem for people in East Asia, all right? Of course, context is everything. If you went to a restaurant and ordered lice, one would hope that the restaurateur would understand what you're trying to say. South Asians have a problem with W and V. W and V. All right, my father is from Mumbai. It's very, very slight. He still has a very slight accent, but there you go. It's a W and V is the interesting thing. Okay, so is there any difference between a veil and a whale for a South Asian? One would hope that on your wedding day you would want to wear one of those, but you wouldn't really want to turn up wearing one of these. Okay, apart from anything else, your bride would be squashed. So a veil looks good on a bride and a whale not so much. W and V. For Arabic speakers, there's the confusion between the p sound and the b sound. P and b. Notice, by the way, an example of voiced and unvoiced. You're doing the same thing with your mouth, but one is with the vibrations in the throat. So p and b. So, did he say Big Ben? Big Ben? Or did he say Pig Pen? Okay, Pig Pen, for anyone who doesn't know, is Charlie Brown's dirty little friend, Pig Pen. It's also the place where pigs live. But anyway, there you go. Is it Big Ben or is it Pig Pen? All right? So these are just 3 examples of the kind of problems that non-native speakers of English have with certain pairs of sounds, all right? And what will happen sometimes is that you will overcompensate, you will try and say it properly, but then you might say the other one instead of the other. So on one side of my family, oh, it's interesting actually, on one side it's Indian, and on the other side it's German. So my grandparents had the V and W problem, as Germans do very famously. So they will overcompensate. Instead of saying V all the time, they will say W all the time. So they might say weri, which is also in fact something that Indian speakers of English might do. They will say weri as well. Okay, here's some homework for you. Make a note. This video is very interesting, or very interesting. It's called The Chaos. It's a poem by a Dutch guy from Holland called Gerard Nolst Trinity. It's on YouTube, that's the address, but you'll find it if you go to YouTube. It's a very, very interesting poem. Maybe if you feel completely inspired, you might want to think about what the phonetic symbols will be for the different words that the narrator is reading to you. In this particular video, the narrator reads and the words of the poem are actually there in front of you. I'm not going to play this video now, but do look up The Chaos by Dr. Gerard Nolst Trinity. okay? Interesting viewing, and certainly will put you in a mind to think, well, English has got a few things to teach me over the course of my preparation for my test. So, returning to the start, as we always do, we are going to be focusing on pronunciation over the next weeks. And that means that every week we'll be looking at an aspect of pronunciation that is interesting, that's going to be challenging, that you may not have looked at or thought of before, that you maybe thought you were doing well, but in fact you were not doing that well. And it's a core skill. It is absolutely essential that you dominate this skill in order to do the best you can in your test. So there's going to be 12 lectures in this series, all right? We'll be looking at phonetics and phonemes. We'll be looking at accents, discussing accents, the issues that accents can bring to the test, all right? And clarity of speech, meaning how clearly you are talking. We want you to maximize your score. So we're teaching you these skills to make sure that when it comes to you sitting down, doing your test, whatever the test is, wherever you're doing your test, whichever part of the world you're doing the test, whether it's to a human being or with a computer, it is essential that you maximize your score, that pronunciation is not the thing that drags your whole score down, okay? The last thing you want is to start losing points on the back of bad or poor pronunciation, all right? We will help you. So tune in every week for these lectures. If you're a paid user of e2language.com, you can use our app, E2Pronounce. That's very, very useful for single words, and it's really quite interesting. It's very good. You use the word list. You can practice and pronounce with those words. It's a useful thing. It sits on your mobile phone. And there you go. Upgrade now. You want to join us? By all means, do join us. We'll be happy to have you. All the information that you now need is on the website. We've been tweaking things. We're constantly modifying and updating. We're very, very happy to have you on board. We have these webinars with me, with Jared, with Jamal, with David, with a whole bunch of us. We're very happy to share our knowledge and expertise with you. Okay? Now, stop sharing.